All right, everybody, welcome back. We are now on episode 12 of Destination Unknown. I am in Rockford, Illinois today with Dave and Kim Pedersen. They corrected me on the name ahead of time. And they have a bookshop in Rockford, like I just said, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. And then we're going to get into the day in, day out of what it's like to have their bookshop and how they got into the business. So how would you like to introduce yourself to the audience today?
Well, I'm Dave. We own, me and my wife, Kim, opened Maze Books in June of 2022. It's already been 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm Kim. I'm Dave's wife, and I help out at the shop.
She does all of the good stuff is what she does. And I just come in and create chaos mostly. So
she cleans up the chaos you create.
Yeah, you got it. It's a cycle.
So 2022, still on the outskirts of the COVID in this country. And so how did you get into deciding to do a bookstore? I know there's an interesting story there.
Yeah, sure.
This is not always your life, and you found your way into it.
Yeah. So in a former life, I was a public servant. I worked for the state of Illinois for the Department of Natural Resources and then the VA. I was also the union vice president. So I was working in a long-term healthcare facility as the director of volunteers at the Mantino Veterans Home. And then COVID hits, and everything in my life went towards that. Our lives, we weren't allowed to go see anybody, do anything. Come out of that, and I knew that I needed something else. I needed a break, and I asked the HR person for 6 months leave to go look at grad school for writing, and they said no. And I said, well, I'm going to go. So I submitted to DePaul and got into the program there. And then Kim said you should apply to Northwestern. So I did that and got into Northwestern for their prose and poetry, and then kind of rediscovered my love of literature because I hadn't been reading. I've been, just working and coming home and trying not to think about working the next day. So then, I don't know, you want to take it from there, I guess?
Yeah. So he's in grad school, and we did a show at an art collective here in Rockford. We were living in Kankakee at the time, but we came home and did this show about typewriters called Paper Fingers, and we just had a really good time. And we were like, maybe we should move back home. And at first it was like kind of a race to see who would get a job first, but then we were like, I saw this building for sale, and it's not the one that we're in or anything, but I was like, what if we bought a building instead of a house? And none of this worked out the way that we thought it would.
The vision changed.
Right. And so Dave was like, at first I thought he would just be like, no, you're completely nuts. Like, we're not doing that. But that's not what he said. He just looked at me and he said, what would we sell? And we looked around and we're like, books?
I love books.
It's like, he's in grad school for prose and poetry. We have a lot of books. We love literature. So yeah, it just kind of went from there. It was this germ of an idea, and here we are.
So yeah, from there was like posting books on Instagram, and I was delivering them to Rockfordians because we were living 2 hours away. So I would post stuff and people would say, oh, I'll take that. So then I was like, since we're moving back anyways, we'd be back looking for at buildings or whatever. And I would just deliver books. And 9 times out of 10, the wonderful thing about being a bookseller is that when you're dealing with used stuff, is that people will just give you a box. They'll say, hey, I don't want to take this down to Goodwill. Do you want them? And you should always say yes. Just say yes. Don't even think about it. So that's what kept happening. And then I would take those books and I would sell those books. And what I figured out was this would be a good way to get really good material in the hands of people in the community. But also it was a lot of fun, like researching that kind of behind the scenes stuff. I love Excel spreadsheets. I have no clue why, but if you put me in kind of this mode of problem solving, that I'd been doing for the government, you know, and some of the worst, the biggest problem I've ever had in our lives, I think, you know, if you can apply those to private business, then there's, if I worked as, I knew if I worked as hard as I did at the government, we'd have something special and I'd still enjoy it. So yeah, then the search came for a store, and we knew we wanted to be in downtown Rockford, which is where I grew up. And that was kind of a weird thing because Rockford has kind of this like sketchy past, and you know, was on a few lists for most dangerous places in America. But that's a city, you know, that's relative to where you're at, and that doesn't speak to the everything else that Rockford really has going on. We knew that didn't matter, you know. It definitely wasn't as dangerous as it was when I was a kid down there. I knew that, so we were going to be fine. So yeah, we set up shop, and the community came, and about a year and a half later, if you want to tell them that, what happened?
Yeah, we moved from, we were like on this one way downtown, so we were still downtown, but we were on a one way, and we didn't have great signage. We weren't allowed to put up a big sign on the building or anything, so
It's terrible.
So you know, people mostly just knew about us from word of mouth or from you know, Google or something like that.
Yeah.
But you were still doing Instagram at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Dave,
So you did have an outreach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Dave has done a ton of news. So surprisingly, our local local population really does pay attention to like the evening news still.
Yeah. The old couple that came in, it's like,
amazing.
I saw you on the computer the other day. Yes.
So we do still have like a lot of news outlets that people actually pay attention to. So
yeah.
Dave's done you know, television interviews for local news, and newspaper and radio.
NPR thing about book selling during Banned Book Week. But that was just like a state thing. And yeah, so
you know how to reach out to the tentacles of getting noticed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, press is your best friend. I mean, it's a book selling is a feel good story they can end the night with, right?
Well, I got a lot of questions already because
all right.
Because like you,
yeah,
I went through a writing program many years ago, and were you actively writing at the same time? You were thinking, I mean, because I know how much solitude
you
you need to have for the writing life.
Yeah, no, I wrote during for grad school, all the time. Now with book selling, trying to shoehorn in, you know, writing is pretty tough. Right. And I've always found that for writing, it's better to have a job in manual labor, because your mind is free at the end of the day. And when you're out there working, you're kind of fine tuning your story. You're always writing in your head. Working in an office you're not afforded that luxury. So you're right. You have to set the tone, because it has to be right for you, whether you write or not. But yeah, I'm not one of those people that can just sit down and be like, I'm at Denny's and I can just write something down. Right. You know.
Now, were you doing poetry, prose? What were you focused on back then?
I was doing both. So I did short stories, not like long prose, and poetry, essays, those sorts of things.
And are you still doing that at all now?
Yeah, I'm actually
during vacation. You're still running. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great for you guys. I mean, I don't know how I could fit it in now. It seems impossible.
5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, we have we really do focus on the retail brick and mortar side of things right now. We're getting the shop to, it's self-sustaining, but like that's our focus, is to be a space, and to be a space for community, but also for just book lovers in general. So that means that we put on a lot of events. And a lot of those are readings, and I think Dave uses that as a motivation to get him to write.
Stay in the writing world. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Give me a deadline. The old saying for writers is, show me a writer with a deadline and I'll show you a writer with a clean apartment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, yeah, right. Because you need that motivating push to finally like, okay, now I can sit down and do this.
Yeah. I'm very envious of you that you're still writing. I do miss it sometimes, but that I feel like that chapter has left me.
Online can be hectic, man, because people are getting a hold of you all the time and they expect you to be this corporate robot. And it's like, I'm in bed right now. Okay. I don't know if it's good condition or very condition. You're going to have to wait, or I'll come over there right now.
Or you know, the one I get a lot of is because I list a lot of yearbooks as well, and I'll go, can you check to see if my mother's in the yearbook? Her name is this.
No, everybody knows her name. Yeah, she's in there.
So we you know, it's always that search for that. So Kim, what were you doing prior to that change?
Yeah, so I'm actually still working at was working in higher ed, and now I work in at RPS 205, the Rockford Public Schools.
Oh, okay.
So I'm the AV production manager for the communication department. So for the district, we have 41 schools. I love it. I think that it's completely insane. There's always some new challenge.
Yeah.
K through 12 is completely different than higher ed in so many ways. But no 2 days are the same.
Right.
But you know, I'm at the shop quite a bit, but really the shop is mostly Dave. Dave is the real brains and heart.
We have two part-time employees. And when I say part-time, like they're scheduled for 8 hours a week.
Right.
Like I have somebody that does Friday morning so I can do estate sales, and then Sundays just so we can do whatever we want and have a day together. But Kim has been, I mean, taking vacation to help build the shelves and designing the shelves and, you know, coming up with all sorts of different things. Like there's no way I could do this by myself. Anybody that can do this by themselves probably should do something else and make more money, because you know, if you're able to do that, that's a real talent.
I do like I don't know, I guess I do a lot of the heavy lifting. So it's like building shelves, moving books. You know,
do you guys have a eBay or Amazon presence out there as well, or is it strictly walk into the bookstore and that's what we are?
I sell stuff on Amazon if it's like, if I feel like the community, it kind of gets priced out. So, but it's so rare. Like, here's a good bookseller story for you. I was like, I'm not working today. So I sat down and watched a video about book selling. Right? You know how it is, man. And it was about the rarest paperbacks.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there having my coffee and I'm watching, and I paused it and I said, I got up and here it is right here. It was a treasure hunting paperback, and I opened it up, and of course it's a first, you know, that went on eBay within 10 minutes, you know, my day of not working. It was sold within like, I don't even know, like an hour or something. And it was in the mail the next day. So that's the kind of stuff I like to do with eBay. I hate the whole thing.
That also tells you that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's the signpost that you're doing the right thing.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what are the chances you're watching a video and that book pops up and it's within arm's reach?
Yeah. Yeah, it's right there, you know? And it was just sitting there. Like, I was like, oh, I couldn't find, I don't know. I think I just was dumb and put it to the side. You know, that's the nightmare I think every bookseller has, is that you take a vacation and you come back and your employees have sold your rarest stuff because you didn't have it priced, and everybody's just getting like a $5, you know.
How large is your store?
Say again?
How large is the store?
I mean, think usable space, probably 1,100 square foot. It's two floors. It's got a mezzanine, and then it's got a main lobby, kids section, and we just added a garden too. So we have kind of this like green space out there.
That's wildly interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
And
well, that's important. Yeah.
Is there, you know, you just said high-end books. Is there a rare book room? Is there a closed off section where the rare books are, or is it just a case?
I have like a display case with some of the stuff that, you know, I would consider rarer. The stuff that's, you know, I'm not putting out anything that's over $100. You know, I mean,
yeah, usually if it's anything that's really rare, that's the stuff that ends up going to eBay, or we find someone
We have a customer in mind
that we know. Yeah. A lot of times with the rarer stuff that we have, we already have someone in mind when we buy it, or when we find it, or some of it
we
ends up in
shop
our
for them
personal
too,
collection.
when you're out and you're like, oh, this person likes whoever this is, so you take a chance.
Yeah, always valuable to know your customers. Always valuable.
And they love it too. I look at it this way. I tell them, like, I clean. Also, I clean every single book, every single used book. I clean. You have to. You got to get the gunk off, the stickers off. Doesn't matter if it's a $4 book. I'm cleaning it.
Kim,
so that also gives me time.
Trained well.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, kids' books are the exception. We, those are kids' books that are donated to our shop. We put them up for $1.
They're $1.
It doesn't really matter like what they are. They're going to be $1, so that that's probably the most important group of people that need to read, kids. So
how are you guys sourcing nowadays post COVID? How are you? I heard you mention estate sales earlier.
Yeah. So when we started, we had like the biggest book buy I think we did was 6,000 books from an estate sale, and that kind of got us a little bit of a relationship with one of the local estate sale people. So we'll clean out after everybody's already been there. We'll do clean outs, or estate sales are great. It's sweaty and nasty, and there's people like touching you, so you're gonna have to deal with that. I have these little spots, and it's kind of like you travel and you go and see what you have. When you first start, you don't really care. You just take whatever, if it's look at that cool book club edition, I'll still take that stuff. But
well, we'll
go out
stuff. There's a market for book club editions.
Sure. But we'll just go out sometimes. Like when we were on vacation the last time, we went to 4 different bookstores. We talked to booksellers and said, where should we go next? And we didn't have any plans. We didn't even have like hotel reservations or anything. We're just going from spot to spot. And that's how we met Eddie. That's how we met Daryl at Chapter 2 Books in Winona, and Beth at Pearl Street. And everybody, it's so good, such a good community, because you feel so alone sometimes when you're just like, why am I doing this? Didn't like George Orwell said, didn't he say like something like bookstores are needed because where else would crazy people go? It's something like that. Like, and then you meet other people and you swap stories and you realize like, well, I actually really enjoy this, even if I enjoy the complaining part too,
We may be the sane ones, actually.
Yeah. Right.
Everybody else around orbiting us is the crazy ones.
Yeah, book buyers are definitely crazy, but there are people.
Are you doing flea markets too? I mean, is it just estate sales, or do you ever go to the thrift stores?
We'll go to thrift stores, flea market. I mean, wherever there's books, we'll go and look. It's a lot of times now, because we have a retail space, a lot of people will just bring books to us.
Yeah.
So that's been a really big source of inventory in the last, I don't know, probably year.
And that helps us keep prices low too. So
as soon as people, realize that we were there, and they're just happy that their books are going somewhere where people will actually care about them. We do get a lot of that. But anywhere that there's books, we'll go and check them out. Like, doesn't matter. Yesterday we were in Wisconsin. I don't remember where, but I was looking for antique shops, and it must have been like, must be something going on with faux antique stores with like chalk crackle home. What do you call it? Farmhouse stuff. I don't know. Sure. But I'm like, where are the antiques? This is all like distressed new stuff,
the peeling paint furniture.
So we hit 3 of those and I was like, God, that sucks. And then we hit another place and I found 2 Bukowskis. So you tell me, it makes no sense. Black Sparrow Press stuff.
Black Sparrow Press stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, was it happen to be signed or no?
No. But somebody had tried typing their own poetry that was stuck in there. I was reading it this morning. I was like, oh, Yeah.
That's what happens. You read Bukowski and like, oh, I can do this.
Pretend to be.
He
Pretend
makes
to
it
be.
look. He makes it look so easy. It's just
Oh no.
like
First
his
step is drinking. Okay.
daily grind of thoughts. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be Bukowski.
No. But I think a lot of younger male writers go through that Bukowski phase where they get introduced to him, and
Yeah.
Oh,
hey, that seems that barfly life seems to be the life.
Then it's David Foster Wallace after
Oh,
that.
cool.
Yeah.
usually Kurt Vonnegut before it.
Kurt Vonnegut before, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I saw Kurt Vonnegut do a reading in 1989 at Boston College to a full auditorium.
Wow.
And he got a standing ovation, and I'll never forget that.
Man,
he,
that was
awesome.
and he was sarcastic, and he was making fun of college and everything else,
Yeah.
but he got a standing ovation.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Man, that's amazing. I would kill to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Well, I went to school in Boston in the late 80s and early 90s. So I got the chance to see Vonnegut. I got to see Allen Ginsberg at Harvard.
Wow.
So yeah, I had a beautiful opportunity, much richer than I realized at the time, to see some of these great writers. Ginsberg performed. He didn't even read his work. He was performing on like a harpsichord at Harvard. It was he was just playing musical instruments poorly, but it was great to
I love it.
be
Allen
in his
Ginsberg.
presence. Yeah.
Allen Ginsberg was the reason I wrote an essay on Kaddish, was how I got to Northwestern, because I think it's my favorite poem of all time. I think it's one of the most honest poems about, the difficulties of parenting and the mother and son relationship. And I feel like he really nailed that, and I would have killed to see him. Yeah. When he read that the first time, it was 1,400 people came to see him read that live.
That's insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's insane. So are you a big Beatnik fan from that writers of that era?
Yeah.
Kerouac, Cassidy.
Yeah. Gary Snyder.
Snyder.
So we do, the city does this thing called Art Scene twice a year, and you get to house, businesses get to house an artist. So they're kind of like your artists in residency for 2 days. So I did Don Hennigan for last fall, and he's a beat writer. He writes for Beat Scene. He's also put together a collection of pocket poet series, and for Grolier. And Ferlinghetti did the introduction forward for that. He's got a great Ferlinghetti story. I won't tell it, but it's amazing. And so Don I knew about the beats, but he really kicked that up, and he shared so much of his life and his knowledge and his personal collection, like showing me things, letters from Kerouac, letters from Ginsberg and stuff. So that has completely changed who I am, because of course I like Kerouac, but then I started reading, more Gary Snyder. I'm like, as I'm getting older, it's like I just reread Big Sur, and I was like, oh man, this is tough. I need something else. So
there's that cult following, but I almost feel like the beatniks are getting to be forgotten a little bit in the American literary scene.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
they touch, but they're in everything. That's the weird part. It's like beatnik culture is, informed the hippies, which informed all this revolutionary writers that we're having now. That we're on like the next generation, I guess, or the third generation.
I can go on a tangent on this. We can go into Richard Brautigan.
Yeah, for sure. Trout fishing in America.
And the Canadian writer W.P. Kinsella.
Okay.
Who I don't know if you know who he is, but he's the writer who wrote Shoeless Joe Comes to Iowa, which is what Field of Dreams was based on.
Okay, yeah.
But he was a big Beatnik and Brautigan fan.
Yeah, I just found some of his chapbooks the other day too. So I took them home.
You found them locally?
Yeah.
That's a great find.
Yeah, it was I can't remember what I was, a few things that I was pretty surprised by.
Are you still promoting a lot to sell through Instagram, since eBay doesn't seem to be a main appetite for you?
Well, I mean, Dave posts almost every day to Facebook and Instagram. But honestly, we don't sell directly on Instagram all that much. We might have somebody say, hey, can you hold that for me?
Right.
But it really does. Social media is huge. It really does bring people into the shop. So a lot of times people will come in and be like, hey, I saw this on your Instagram feed. Like, daily.
Yeah.
We'll get somebody coming in for what they saw on Instagram or on Facebook. So,
But no one's connecting with you from, say, I don't know, Northern California, saying, "Hey, I saw your book on Instagram. Can you send that to me?"
a couple of times.
There was like one for first edition of Suttree, Cormac McCarthy, which is still available. So
Yeah.
We'll put that in the link below.
Yeah, but yeah, it's mostly local people or people who are in Rockford is pretty centrally located, so we're pretty close to Chicago, Milwaukee, and Madison.
Right.
So it's usually people just in this region. But honestly, we haven't. It hasn't been a focus yet. Because mostly we're just trying to keep enough material on our shelves.
Yeah.
Like
I was never a big social media fan, and now I have a YouTube channel. I'm on Whatnot doing Whatnot shows live, and somebody pushed me into it, and I actually ended up falling in love with the platform of social media, and I love what it does for the used book business. I mean, it's amazing.
I think the biggest thing, I'm gonna just
No,
speak
go,
for Dave.
go.
I don't know. The biggest thing that social media has done for us is it's connected us with other booksellers.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's my favorite part too.
It's been huge for that. So even though sorry, our cat's like just.
It's okay. I got one, but she's in the garage now.
This is Virginia Werewolf.
Yeah.
Of course it is Virginia Werewolf.
She's a kitten. She's only what, 6 months old. She's super chill though. She's really nice.
Yeah, we thought she'd be a bookshop cat, but I think she's a little too adventurous.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, we've been so focused on the physical space and making sure that works for the community. And really, I know one of Dave's biggest goals, and I think we've done a really good job of this, is elevating the literature, the literary scene in Rockford to where visual arts are. So there's a really thriving visual arts community in Rockford. And they're, well, writers, like they're quieter, and it's a very solitary activity. And so having a space for that has been huge. I think we've seen a lot more people pushing themselves to write more, but also just people connecting with other writers in the area. So, but as far as social media goes, it's still huge for us, even if it's just local. It's been a big reason that people know that we exist in the first place.
Yeah, they know we have a hold section.
Right.
So a lot of times they set their alerts, they turn their alerts on. It's for the people who are addicted to books, and I know who you guys are. I know every single one of you, and I have all the books that you want. So when that thing clicks on, they're all like dash and be like, "Can you hold this, Dave? I'll be in 2 days." And that's generally how it goes. Is I know that
that's phenomenal.
Here's the stuff that I know. But even if I, let's say, like I found that Visions of Cody, the other day when I was going through that Brodigan stuff, and there's a kid that's working on getting some older Kerouac. He's really loves Jack Kerouac, and I knew that this would make his day, and I was like, $8, let's go, But that kid comes every single Thursday, and I don't give him a Jack Kerouac vintage book for $8 every single Thursday, but it's part of it, informs who he is, and he'll come to the bookstore. And even if he moves away, he'll go to the bookstore there. You're helping somebody along with their passion, their hobby,
Well, I taught English and reading for 18 years, and I never had one student come to me to talk about Kerouac. So you're far ahead of the game than I ever was.
Yeah. It's been crazy turning people on to different things. And I always give them homework. I always say, all right, you got to report back because I want to know what you think. And that's not like sales pitch, that's for real, because like the worst thing you could do is, if you see me, is come up to me and start talking about books, because you're not getting away. All right, I'm gonna keep talking. I can't stop talking about books.
I know. I almost think that the bookstore for you is that's your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be there so you can be around the world that you want to be in. That's awesome.
I love I mean, the customers, even the ones that are the weird, the ones that push you, those are great character studies. Like I had a guy the other day, and some days, like, we're not a corporate, we're people. And when I told Mary and Haley when they started, I said, you're allowed to be a person here. You're never going to wear a name tag. If anybody's out of line with you, you tell them, where they can go. So like, but we'll play with the customers a little bit like that. And I think they enjoy that too. So the other day I had a guy come in, and we had moved in October, and he comes in, he goes, did you move? I said, what was the
Do you really want me to answer that?
Obviously, and so those are the things I like to be able to do too, is kind of like, be a little bit of a miscreant and kind of,
Make it fun.
because I hate how sterile things are too. Everything's so like, everybody's so like uptight anymore. It's like, can't we just be people sometimes?
Everything looks the same.
Yeah.
Every when I drive from my city where I live to a subsequent city and to another city north or south of me, they all look the same.
Yeah.
The Dunkin' Donuts is right across from the Burger King, which is right down the street from McDonald's. Everything looks the same. So keep doing what you're doing, and that's your voice.
Oh, they love it. But people who would be like, can I speak to the manager, won't like my shop anyways, And I've only had one person ask for that, and that was a writer that I was like, no, I don't think so. I think we're going to pass. He's like, well, can I talk to the owner? I was like, sure can.
right at you. Let's go.
Let me go grab them for you. Yeah, no.
So you guys celebrated your 2-year anniversary.
Mhm.
So what has changed the most from day one of you opening the store, and also what has changed the most in your mindset from what you thought it was to the reality of what it is?
That's a great question.
I just came up with that one.
That's a great question, Max. You'll write that one down.
That is a good question.
Yeah, your expectations versus what you get. Well, I did on our 1 year, I wrote down my thoughts about 1 year. And I think the first thing I said was, I didn't realize I was in retail. I know that sounds dumb because I'm a dumb idiot who's highly motivated. Like, that didn't factor in. I liked books. I like people that buy books. I like interacting and talking about books. I never thought about the customer service or the fact that I'd be in retail. And like, okay, it's one thing to do that. It's another to do it all day long on your feet and have these conversations. And you're like, I don't want to call it like psychic vampires or something, but you go home and you're just so beat, because you're just like, I can't. There's something. It's like they're taking something out of you when they're taking.
You're talking all day about literature. You're a professor for 8 hours a day.
Right.
Without a
so
break.
That part I didn't consider as much. And I think I just had somebody reach out to me the other day, and they said, we're going to be opening a shop kind of locally, semi-locally. What do you recommend? I said, have you ever worked in a bookstore? And they said, no. I said, okay, listen, go to Barnes & Noble, get yourself a job, get paid for a couple months, learn about it. It's a paid apprenticeship program, right? And see if you even like it. Because what are you going to do? You're going to go invest all this stuff like we are, like a couple of morons, and then, decide after you throw a bunch of money in whether you like it or not. Luckily, we did. But that's my advice to anyone. If you're listening, you want to start a bookstore? It's not magical. It's not, you don't get to read. That's the monkey paw, curling. Right. There's a readers and booksellers are two separate people. I'll say that, you can't, if you don't like interacting with people, it's gonna be hard to be a bookseller. If you don't,
The one common thread with all of these interviews I do with all of the bookstore owners, they say nobody realizes how many times we carry books from one place to another and then back to another place. That's the one thing that no one ever understands, is how books get from one place to another inside of a bookstore.
Yeah. And I always say I look like I just got fired because I'm always carrying around a banker's box from it's constant. It's
You're
Sisyphean.
It's very Sisyphean. And sometimes you bring the box back to where you got it the first time, and
often.
Yeah,
That's just the way the bookshelves run their lives. Sometimes it's a very, very different thing.
Absolutely.
Now, what was the moment though? Because I love the story of being in the VA
yeah.
and you're a literature student. You're trying to go into graduate school.
Mhm.
You're starting to realize books have a value and there's a business behind it. What was it? One collection? Was it one book? When did the flashlight go?
I
This
think
is
I
this is what I need to do.
the book that got me into all this trouble was
I love it.
a first edition of The Jungle by Upton Sinclair
The
for
muckraker.
$20.
Yeah.
And I was a union, I mean, I was a labor guy for a long time. My parents were both union meat packers. It wasn't just a book. And locally, we're 90 minutes outside of Chicago,
Right. Yeah.
A market. And then,
The meat packing industry.
it had this
That's what the
just
book's
thing
about.
like,
Yeah.
and I think that's the one that really tipped the scale for me. Cause I was like, man, how long has this been sitting here and what has it seen? And how important it survived all of these things, especially if you think about all the socialist material in there, right? That survived McCarthyism.
Dust jacket or no dust jacket?
No dust jacket, of course, but still enough to get me in trouble. Yeah.
So you picked up Upton Sinclair's A Jungle, great muckraking tale, and you sold it?
No, of course I kept it because booksellers don't sell books. We keep the ones we like.
Kim, we got to talk.
I know.
We got to get him straight.
You're supposed to sell them? Wait a minute.
So, okay. So, but you realize the value.
We're in trouble,
Yeah, we are.
We're going to learn a lot from this interview. So, but you realize the value of it.
Yes, of course.
Not just the literary importance of Upton Sinclair.
Yeah.
Who, if I remember correctly, didn't he run for president?
I don't know if he ran for president. I know he wrote. I know briefly about him as a writer, as a journalist. When he wrote The Jungle, I think it was it Roosevelt? I can't remember who the president was at the time. But his administration, he was like, oh, he's just making it up, and he's just, so they sent somebody from their admin. The guy goes, jeez, and this is really bad, and that's how we get the FDA. He also wrote, the other book was Oil, right, which was turned into that film, There Will Be Blood, with Daniel Day-Lewis. So I don't know if he ran for president. Eugene Debs ran for president from prison.
I just remember, I remember Sinclair being credited with a lot of things, and I think one of them was that The Jungle, the book itself, was sort of the pioneering light for muckraking, muckraking journalism. I think it was really that novel that really set muckraking afoot in this country.
Yeah.
And people and writers exposing the harsh realities of what America was like.
Yeah.
Look at that. Nothing's changed. It's been over 100 years. Nothing's changed.
Probably won't get a rat in your bacon. That's changed. But let's thank you, Upton, for that.
I'm sure we could Google that and find something of that happening.
But however, only 11% of jobs are union in America. So that's
right. Yeah, the world has changed in that respect for sure. Yeah. So how do you see the growth of your store in 2 years, and where do you think it's going?
Yeah, so we moved the shop. So we were in our first location for about a little over a year.
And our plan was, in 5 years, we'd like to look at buying a building.
Okay.
But we had the opportunity sooner. So we were able to purchase our building about 18 months after we opened.
Yeah.
So we built the first shop, and then a year later we packed up everything and we moved it and built the next shop. So
did you know right away this place where you're at now, that's where you got to be? You felt it?
Yes. Yeah. So we were on a one-way with very little signage. Now we're on East State, which is the main drag downtown. So we're by the Rockford Art Deli and SRM Prints. So we've got our kind of like miniature print row happening right there. Yeah, just that move, it was really like 2 blocks. It made all the difference in the world. So yeah, I mean, it's been so much better because we're just so much more visible, and
So it's so hard to predict,
more accessible.
because it's so hard to predict where we're going to be, what 2 years looks like. I mean, I have no clue. Like, I'm hoping if this keeps up, eventually I'll be able to move away from the counter. We'll have our employees doing that side, and then we can really start doing a lot of fun stuff. My dream, of course, as I think every bookseller eventually is I'd love to publish things, and make small press, small run stuff.
Ooh, we had a little sputter right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a little sputter right there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, you wanted to publish?
Yeah. So I would love to have a little printing house in-house to make zines, or even you take public domain stuff, and put your own, take some local artists from Rockford to redo the covers, and start thinking about how you can take something bigger and make it even more for the community, I guess.
So would you like to do like a literary magazine, or would you like to publish local authors or Illinois history?
Well, I think to start would be poets, and then after that, look at some prose, some anthology stuff. I got some stuff in the works, possibly for some submissions for an anthology, and I'm pretty excited about it, but I don't want to say anything yet, because then I'll have to actually,
do the work.
Yeah, and I'm on vacation. So, but it's going to happen. It's just, finding the time.
An anthology of poetry.
This would be a haiku anthology about a specific topic.
Wow, you're niching down poetry into the haiku.
Well, but I think if you open it up to the public and you say, here it is, and the way that you get around AI, I feel like, is you have to have physical submission. So either by mail or they drop it off. Right. So,
yeah. your plans. I mean, I interviewed Eddie from Driftless Books, and he's all about the community as well. Yeah. And he, I mean, in his vision, it's almost utopian. He wants a whole book city and literature and culture all around, which is similar to what you guys are saying, along with the press. I know Eddie, Eddie has a little publishing house too.
Eddie Nix is not, that community is not like any community I've ever been to. When we got there, like Eddie, and I think we were talking before, was like, he invited us to this potluck, go to this potluck at this organic greenhouse. A brass band comes, these farmers come from, they're bringing hard apple cider from their orchard and goat cheese. And this is Sunday night. Like, we just got
it doesn't sound like 2024.
No. And like, nobody's on their phone. Everybody's just talking, and like, there's kids running around. You don't know who the parents are, but everybody's kind of like pitching in. And it's just this, nobody's complaining. I didn't hear one complaint.
Nobody's on their phones.
Nobody's on their phones. And then this brass band shows up and starts playing tunes, and people are playing along or just singing and having a good time. So that night, we stayed the night in Viroqua at a hotel, and Kim and I were like, you know what? This is like a Shirley Jackson story. They're going to come out and be like, the blood of the yuppies must be spilled so that we can have the harvest. That's what I was waiting for. Because he's so right about this feeling that is there, and he's working very hard at it, but there's other people there working hard too. And I feel like there's this feeling, at least if it doesn't get to a utopia, they've got something there, and you can already feel it now. So he's doing
definitely work. Molding something special there. You can feel it in the interview where his eyes light up when he talks about the community. But for you guys,
he's a wizard, man.
Yeah, for you guys to tell that story and the big brass band comes on in.
It was crazy.
I feel like we're in 1958. Now it's another time, another a forgotten history. I mean, it's amazing.
But we are social creatures, and we need that. It's part of. We are cultural and social animals. We need to be around each other, even if we don't feel like we need to. We do.
Well, and I mean that's something that really is wonderful about bookstores, but also just about literature in general. And is that it really does bring people together. They love to talk about it. Then you start talking about ideas, and it goes from there. I'd say that the number one thing that people would say to us when we moved back and we were opening a bookstore was, do people even read
books.
anymore?
But
Which
I got to
they
tell you,
do.
they were saying that in 1992 when I was in the book business, getting started in the real book business. They were saying the same thing in 1992, and then Amazon became part of the conversation, and eBay became part of the conversation. And I remember a lot of booksellers saying, "Oh, no one's ever going to order a book online, that off the internet." They wouldn't even say it wasn't even online; it was the internet. No one's ever going to order a book off the internet. And look how the world changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say this a lot at the shop when we're talking about physical media, right? If you look at streaming 10 years ago, if I told you when you bought Multiplicity or whatever, I don't know, you're not going to really own it. I mean, you'd say, yeah, I agree with that, but I'll have it. Okay, but it's going to be interrupted with ads now, unless you pay extra. You're like, but I already own it. There is no reason to think that e-readers will not be moving that exact way, where printing houses and publishing houses are going to do the same thing that Paramount has done, that all of a sudden you're reading your book and it's like you get this ad that just completely interrupts everything unless you pay them extra. Now, when you buy a book, you own it. It's yours. It's like the thing that corporations hate right now is what they'd love is to take everything that's public and sell it back to you, right? And when you buy a book, they can't do that. You can give it to somebody. How much they hate that idea. I can be like, Max, here, and then you can give it to somebody too. I'm not saying it's like this, utopian idea, but it's an idea of ownership to where what are you buying? You're not. You're borrowing. You are borrowing it from them, and they will take it back as soon as it makes sense, as soon as they're able to, as soon as they need the money. It's no longer yours.
And pay the subscription for next month.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if you feel the same way I do, but I feel like the book business, the used book business, is a phenomenal business to be in. I think we're in for a sort of a gold rush of the book selling business. I think with eBay being international, I mean, I sell a lot of books internationally, but I also sell a lot on Whatnot, and I'm waiting for Whatnot to go international. And I think once Whatnot goes international, and you can sell books live to people in different lands who don't even speak English,
right.
I just think we're in for a gold rush, and I think it's a great business to be in. And even though some booksellers are anti-technology, I think technology has been the medicine for the book at this point.
Yeah. Just not e-readers. Just there's no reason to have. I mean, I have stuff because like Kathy Koja, for instance, I really love her work, and I can't find a paperback of hers is like $60. That's a good reason to go get an ebook, right? If the books aren't being reprinted.
Yeah. And we do have some customers who have come in and donated, and they're older and they're like, well, I have an e-reader now because my eyesight's no good, but they still like treasure their books, so they bring them to us, that kind of thing. So it definitely, it's great if you're traveling or something like that, but there's nothing like holding a real book.
That can never be replaced.
No,
never be replaced. And just like the generation of kids today in schools, they don't even know what a typewriter is. I mean, you guys started this interview with talking about a show you did with typewriters, and
that was a wonderful show because, I mean, typewriters are.
Dave collects them.
I collect them, so I put them all out there, and to watch kids use typewriters for the first time, it's really almost like an experiment. Because you're like, all right, go ahead. And the first thing they have is we all have what I call fluffy fingers because we've been using touch screens. So first you're like, oh, it's broken. No, you are the machine here. So you have to go a little harder. So then they start doing that. Then they start getting words. And then all of a sudden they hear the bell. That's a big surprise. That's
not America Online.
Like, what was that? You're like, well, keep typing. Now you have a couple more characters to go. Now it stops. Then they do this. Where's the enter button? I said, man, listen, this slick. There isn't one. You got to grab this freaking thing and jam it all the way over. And man, I'm telling you, 2 of those, and kids, they'll shut up for like an hour. Just let them sit there.
That would make a great video to film a teenager using a typewriter and having them try to figure out without telling them what to do. That would make an interesting video.
You'd have adults who use
Yeah.
them that can't, you know, and
I'll give
it's a
you
wonderful experience though. And it's also to show them that when they make a mistake, which everybody does, you have to go forward, right? It's just exists. You can't go back and delete it. We're living in a time where you warp your face, you put filters on, you delete what you said because that wasn't who you really were, or you made a mistake. It's like, no, we live with our mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, you just keep going forward. That's all you can do.
And I'm not an aficionado of typewriters, but I have learned something which is really unique about typewriters because, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they were sold door to door. And so the word typewriter can all be spelled out on the top line.
Oh, with QWERTY.
All of those letters are on the top line. And that was part of the sales pitch for the salesman to say to the housewife back in the day, look how quick I can spell typewriter.
Right.
But he already knew it was all on the top. He already knew it was on the top row. Yeah. So that was a little sales pitch. That's all I really know about typewriter.
No, that's true. The QWERTY, you can do it all with that. That wasn't the design, but some smart sales guy figured that out. Yeah. Invented in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They just had QWERTYCon was just there. The biggest nerd fest. Wonderful. I didn't get to go. But Dr. Richard Polt, who wrote the Typewriter Revolution, which is wonderful.
Are you collecting typewriters?
Oh, I do. Yeah, man. I have like 30 typewriters.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if I run across them, I should send you pictures from now on.
Don't send me anything. If all you need to know is Hermes, Olympia, and Olivetti.
That's all you
for those. Those are those are the three that you could probably sell real fast.
Okay. Yeah,
Hermes is the best.
I know some of those mid-century modern electrics with the cool colors, they sell well.
If it's red, it will. Yeah. Electrics
or like a blues or
like a sky blue. Yeah.
Those are
getting harder and harder to find though with the estate sales.
Because I have them. I have all of them.
You have them all 30 of them.
He has.
There's 30 left. Yeah.
Yeah, 30 left.
Yeah.
You're going to have to have a room in the house just for the typewriter collection.
An extensive collection, all portables though. He's very specific, but but I mean that was a really cool part of Paper Fingers was then we took some of the anonymous typing because the first night was everybody just came and local writers and local artists, and they all worked off of the prompt. So they all picked their typewriter, and when we published everything in a zine, it included all of the mistakes. So the idea that it's okay to make a mistake, you don't have to be constantly editing yourself.
Yeah.
When's the last time you heard that? That's amazing. It's okay to make a mistake.
You got to tell kids this, man, because they're growing up now, and I see it, and they're not. They're being told by I'm not saying their parents, but society needs to be like, no, put that filter on your face. You're not allowed to have a wrinkle.
Right. They take 30 pictures of themselves just to select one to show the world.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Amazing. Yeah.
Well,
we are just upon the hour.
All right.
I know you guys are on vacation. I don't want to take up all your vacation time.
We're coming over, Max.
Yeah. I need help. I got some books we got to move.
We're good at moving them.
I got 14 pallets coming Wednesday. You are more than welcome to come help.
Oh God. So romance. No.
I'm going to do some videos on it. We'll see. Right. So the name of the show, of course, is Destination Unknown. I never know where I'm going. So where are you guys going to send me off to?
Well, you are off to the scenic Norwich, New York to see my friend Jason Miller at CS Miller Books.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Not too far away from Smithville, from our brother Phil Monteleone.
Yeah, we follow each other on Instagram. This is nice.
Yeah. So Miller just opened his physical location, I want to say within the last year for sure. And me and him have talked to each other, been kind of like pushing each other every week because we'll be like, man, you won't believe it. And he has a fantastic collection and a pretty large Instagram following. So he started online and has now moved over to the physical stuff.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So yeah, just send me his information and I'll get in touch with him in the next day or two. But that's awesome. So you're sending me back to New York. I keep crisscrossing the Midwest and New York for some reason.
Yeah. Max in Wisconsin, I mean, we got to get you out of there sometime.
Oh, I'm coming up sooner or later. Watch out. I'll be coming up to the Midwest sooner or later. It's going to be amazing. Well, thank you very much for your time. Again, you guys are episode 12. It will appear probably next week, and I'll give you a heads up when it does. And I just want to thank you for the candor, the great stories, and keep writing though. I want to see that publishing house inside the bookstore.
All right. Thank you very much, Max. You take care, man.
Have a great vacation.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.